What is going on? I am Cole. Welcome back to my channel. And today we are talking about my most anticipated comics for September 21st, 2022. And if you want to see what those are, make sure you stick around through this. My most anticipated comics for September 21st, 2022. All right, so one of the things I always like to start this episode with is that if you watch this and you're wondering where I get my information from, I always use League of Comic Geeks. One of the things I really like about this site is that you can kind of see what is there. You can create a pull list, and it just kind of really helps figure out what's coming out for each of these weeks. One of the nice things too is that when you create a pull list, it'll email it to you so you know which books you're getting, so that when you actually end up going to the shop, you can make sure if you put something that you want to pull, you maybe didn't ask to add to your pull list, you can see it on there and make sure that you don't forget it. The reason why I always lead with that is in case some of these books aren't coming out. Just wanted to let you know where I get my information before I make this video. I usually, as you could probably see, I recorded this one almost a week in advance, just due to the fact that I will be out for a friend's wedding, so I will not be around. So I had to record this a little bit earlier than normal, but I also want to let you know that sometimes paper delays or shortages, some of those things happen, and there have been issues with shipping comics. It seems like they have started to get back and figure out where they are, but I just like to lead with that in case there are any issues or something doesn't actually come out. But before I get into these comics, I would like to do a little bit of housekeeping. One of the things that I have been doing on most of my Sundays is creating a selection Sunday video where I have you pick which cards that I rip. This week has been all football, and there's one more day to vote on that. So if you haven't already, click this link here and go vote for that. It would be awesome if you could do that. Getting those votes helps me figure out what I should open and what people want to see. I am also getting closer to 500 subscribers. So if you are here and you are not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and tell some friends if you would like to. But what you're all here for, and it is to figure out what my most anticipated comics for this week are. And the first book is going to be End After End, number 2. This is from Vault Comics. I have read the first issue of this and I loved it. If you didn't know, David Andrew wrote a book called Resident that Bruce and Stephanie over at Bruce and Stephanie Comics talk about a lot. And I really fell in love with that book, and I fell in love with David as a writer. So I wanted to jump on this. He is co-writing this with Tim Daniels, and I really enjoyed the first issue. It's kind of dealing with, when you die, what happens, and there's kind of this all-out war going on. So far, the story seems pretty good. I know that there were a little bit of talks, I thought, when this book was coming out, that this was going to be horror-based. There wasn't really too much to do with that, so I would like to see if this, there's definitely a lot of things that could tie into it, but I would love to see that. But this first issue really put a great foundation for what I think is going to be a very solid story, so I highly recommend checking out End After End if you haven't already. It is only issue 2, so you're not going to be too far behind if you want to grab issue 1 if your shop has it, and issue 2 to check it out. The art in this was fantastic, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm glad because I think I ended up buying 3 or 4 copies of different covers for this one. So Swish Rips, if you are listening, this is one of the few books that I have bought just for the cover art. Granted, I did end up reading it, but I did get I think the A cover, the B cover, and the 1 in 10, and maybe the 1 in 5. I don't remember. It's been a while, but yeah, just throwing that down for you. And we are on to the number ones. There are a lot of number ones this week. So the next book is Batman, One Bad Day, Two-Face. I was planning on not grabbing any others of these One Bad Day one-shots because the first one was written by Tom King. I really enjoyed it, but I've been kind of trying to minimize what I buy, especially with some of these bigger books. But this one is Marika Tamaki, and I loved what she did on Detective Comics, so I'm really intrigued to see Two-Face is one of those characters that I really love in the Batman mythos, and I don't think that there are, at least as of recent, there haven't been a ton of use of him, so being able to see this and kind of get through the mind of him would be really cool. I loved what Tom King did in the Riddler one. That one took a very different approach on Riddler, and it was a little bit more adult, so I'm hoping that this kind of does the same thing. I think that Marika Tamaki has done a very good job on Detective Comics when she was at the helm, so I'm excited to see what this book has to offer. These are one-shots, but I think there's going to be a ton of them coming out. I'm not sure what the other ones are, but I think this one should be evenly as good as the One Bad Day Riddler #1. The next book we have is Creepshow #1. This is from Image Comics under the Skybound label. I normally don't love anthology books, but this is a horror book. I really do love horror books. I figure this is one of those ones where for me, I'm going to at least check out this first issue. I know that if you were a fan of Batman, the animated series, Paul Dini is doing a one of the stories within here, so I'm very excited to see. I think this is going to be very like, like Tales of the Crypt or some of those older, horror anthology stories. So I'm excited to see what this has to offer. And every issue of this is going to have a different creative team, so I think that's very cool. The stories involved in here are about the party of an antics of Shingo, the birthday clown with an appetite for more than cake. So yeah, I think there's going to be some cool stuff. Each of these are going to be a little bit of a small, quick horror story. And while I don't love anthology stuff, I think that horror is kind of one of those things that you can tell a quick tale and do something pretty good. So I'm at least checking out this first issue. And if I don't love it, I'm probably going to pass on the rest. And the next book up is Hell is a Squared Circle #1. This is from Aftershocks Comics, and it is one of their one-shots. So if you don't know what those are, usually they're in the the larger format where it's a little bit wider in magazine size, and they're just a one-shot tale. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of these one-shots, especially because I kind of hate that big format. But when I saw that Chris Condon from, if you've watched the show, you've probably heard my love for That Texas Blood. I had to go ahead and grab this one because I think that this is going to be a pretty cool book. It is also wrestling inspired, which is something else I very much enjoy. So if wrestling is something that you like, maybe you're reading Duo Powerbomb, I think this could be another book that could be a cool pickup. It's very hard to tell sometimes with this. With wrestling style books, if they're going to be for everyone or not. But I think that for most of the time, if a publisher is going to put something out, there's got to be something a little bit more there. So I took the name of Chris Condon, and I knew that I had to get this. So once again, Hell is a Squared Circle #1 from Aftershocks Comics. And if you've been following me lately, I have been very behind on a lot of my reading, but this next book is actually a book that I've already read because I did have an advanced reader's copy or reviewer copy, and that is Vanish #1. This is from Image Comics. This is from writer Donnie Cates and artist Ryan Stegman, and this was a very, very cool book. It is definitely different than what I kind of went in to look at it. Granted, you see kind of this cover, and you kind of know that it's probably going to be about something pretty brutal. I would say this is kind of like The Boys, but maybe with a little bit of like sword and sorcery magic inside of it. It kind of follows this guy who, was part of this magic school, and then, people came and they killed his family, and it's just kind of how he's dealt with it and what he's doing it currently. He also seems to have a lot of, drugs and drinking problems, so there's some of that within this, but this is not for the weak of heart. If you have read The Boys, there's some pretty brutal stuff, and this also has that. As you can see from the cover right here, the main character's hands are covered in blood. But yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty fun book. I'm not sure if this is going to be an ongoing or just a mini, but so far I am pretty pulled in from this first issue. So I think that it's something that, especially if you are a fan of Donnie Cates' writing, this is one that you should definitely pick up. And thank you so much for coming back to the channel and watching this video. Once again, I recorded this way in advance just so that I could make sure that I had this out by Friday. So there are chances that some of the stuff gets delayed, but those are going to be my top 5 comics. As always, if there's something that you are very interested in reading, picking up for a cover or just something you think that maybe I should know about, let me know in the comments down below. I love hearing what other people think and what they're most excited to pick up. So let me know. I did have a pretty heavy number one week, but I think this week is very solid for most reading. There were just a lot of number ones that I was pretty pumped for, so I wanted to let them know so that if you are looking for something new, you have that new book that hopefully you can pick up off the shelf and give a read. So once again, I've been Cole. Thanks for stopping by, and peace. My most anticipated comics for September 21st, 2022.